tonight, the big thing, I want Troy to feel welcome tonight. So let's jump into some of these announcements. My first one tonight, this is one of my favorite films of the last decade. I'm eager to see if Troy has seen this one. Second Sight, who we just showed the Mean Streets from, they're putting out a 4K of Green Room, which came out in 2015. This is a very, very incredible film, in my opinion, with a punk rock band that is stuck in a neo-Nazi bar overnight and have to fight to survive the night, basically. We got a new audio commentary, some archival commentaries, new interviews with a bunch of individuals involved. And this is really exciting for me, especially we've got new essays by a mutual friend of ours, Eugenio Ercolani is on this one. And then Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, Josh Hurtado, Jolene Richardson, and a few others, plus the standard Second Sight art cards and all that fun stuff that comes with it. Have you ever seen Green Room, Troy?
Oh yeah, no, it's a very good film. Patrick Stewart's great in it, of course, and yeah, I definitely I'm glad to see that this is getting a nice upgrade, and always nice to see Eugenio involved in anything.
That is a busy, busy man, by the way. His hands are in everything, it seems like.
Yeah, he's definitely got a full plate. I'm there with him quite frequently, so I know.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot over the last year together. It seems like stepped up a little bit with you and Nathaniel and him working trio on some of these.
Yeah, commentary wise, I forget when we did our first one together. It might have been 2022, but yeah, there have been a bunch lately, and well, we're going to be recording another one next week, as a matter of fact, and there's lots of that, and we collaborate on book projects as well. So he's good people, and he's been a great, tremendous asset for me as far as helping to enrich my projects, my book projects.
The most odd thing about him when it comes to Italian cinema is you can name seemingly anybody in Italian cinema history, and he'll have some personal story attached to that individual somehow.
Hmm. Well,
Love
yeah,
that.
his mother worked in the Italian film industry, and of course, his grandfather was a great director, Giulio Petroni, who directed To Pepa with Orson Welles and Tomas Milian, Death Rides a Horse with Lee Van Cleef and John Philip Law. So yeah, his roots run pretty deep. And whenever I do commentaries with him, I don't even attempt to say Italian titles because it's bad enough the way that I pronounce these things anyway. But when I'm there with him, I let him do it because he knows what he's doing.
I reached out to him a little while ago to talk about some special features I have him working on for another release, and I brought up this random film. I was like, "Hey, do you happen to know anybody from this?" He goes, "Oh yeah, my mom dated the director." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell?
Yeah, yeah.
Love that guy. Next one, another one up from Second Sight, the film Possessor from 2020. This is the Brandon Cronenberg film. This is coming out on 4K on March 18th. This is going to be 4K and Blu-ray discs in this, and the special features and the main feature are on both discs. So even if you are Region A locked, you should be able to get this and watch everything on the disc in your 4K player. So that's pretty damn cool. We got new audio commentary from Brandon Cronenberg on this. We've got Dolby Vision. I forgot to say that, but yeah, it'll be full 4K and Dolby Vision HDR. New interview with Brandon Cronenberg. New interview with a bunch of people from the film. And again, we've got the art cards and all that fun stuff that they put in this. And then we got a short film. Please speak continuously and describe your experiences as they come to you. That's really cool. They don't get to do that all that often. And then we've got a 120-page book on this with new essays by Stacey Abbott, Anton Battelle, John Towson, and Heather Wixon. I mean, it's Second Sight again. Just incredible quality. What do you think of Possessor, Troy?
Very interesting film. I'm not entirely aboard the Brandon Cronenberg train just yet. I love his father, but between this and Infinity Pool, he's definitely very interesting. I find the films more. Let's say I appreciate them and I respect them more than I probably really enjoy them. But they're definitely interesting. They're definitely original, and yeah, he's definitely somebody that I'm interested to watch as he evolves.
Did you ever get a chance to see his first film, Antiviral?
I didn't see that one. Just the two I mentioned. And like I said, I thought they were, they're definitely well worth seeing. they weren't the types of films that made me say, "Oh, I can't wait to watch that again." But you never know. Sometimes you see them again later down the line, and they click with you more. So they're not films that I would write off by any means.
I would agree there. I really liked Possessor, and for some reason, still haven't watched it since that first time. It's
Hmm.
nothing that super drew me back into it, but for especially for a second film, it took
Yeah,
some swings. It was not something that
yeah.
you would expect from a second film. But then again, it's a Cronenberg, so I mean, it's kind of in his veins, probably.
It runs in the family.
Exactly. Next one up is one that we are gonna talk about for sure. Unlawful Entry from 1992 that I just talked about on the channel about 6 weeks ago or so is coming out as a site exclusive from Shout Studios. And this sold out within 48 or 72 hours of being announced, something like that. And what's funny is it's a site exclusive that got some new special features. It's got a retrospective interview with the director. It's got an interview with the cinematographer, a retrospective interview with film music historian Daniel Schweiger about the James Horner score on this. And it was announced as having 1,620 copies, the most arbitrary number that Shout could think of. And out of nowhere today, they said, oh, it sold very well. How about now we announce that we can sell 980 more of them? And so this limited edition copy is going now all the way up to 2,600 titles. And those 980 will be going back up for sale when they get to the warehouse. And they've already shipped most of that first run that was ordered. So keep an eye on that if you missed it and you want it, because this is, in my opinion, I'm going to ask Troy if he's seen it, but I love this movie. I think this is one of the better thrillers from the 90s, and it never should have been a site exclusive from Shout. Troy, Unlawful Entry, have you seen it?
Not in so many years. I would hate to comment on it. I have very fuzzy memories of seeing it many many years ago. I'm not crazy about the whole site exclusive model. I don't really understand it. I've heard people try to rationalize it as some kind of a licensing thing, which doesn't really make sense to me. I don't think that's really the rationale. I know that there have been some site exclusives that left a lot to be desired. So I'm glad to see that this one, will hopefully be a nice addition. Hopefully the transfer is good, and they put some features on, so that's nice. Where they got this number from, I don't know. Maybe they have a dartboard with numbers on it, and they just hit it. I don't know, but hey, whatever. I mean, good for those who want it, but I don't really understand that.
I I don't understand how you could argue that it could be a contractual thing for the numbers when they can just pull out another 980 because it sold well.
No, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, what license or I mean, what would the advantage be? Well, we'll give it to you for a little bit cheaper if you only print 1,100 copies. Okay, we'll do it. I mean, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. So, I think they kind of don't have faith in some of these titles, and they figure, well, we don't want to do a full run, so we'll just do a limited number and see how it goes. And then if it does well enough, hey, we'll print some more. And yeah, I mean, well, these next 900 sold so well, we'll print another 1,000. I mean, whatever. It's not my place to say.
Either way, it's a movie starring Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta. This should have
Yeah,
been a regular collector's edition wide release for everybody. And the biggest thing that nobody ever says about these site exclusives is they only ship to the US and sometimes Canada, so
yeah.
nobody else in the world can get them. And Unlawful Entry doesn't have another Blu-ray release that's legal. There's a couple bootlegs out there, but this is a big deal. Like, this is a title that a lot of people have wanted for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully a UK label will pick it up or something and even the playing field a little bit.
That would be swell. And honestly, with what Umbrella's been pumping out lately, I feel like they
Mm,
could do a lot with this title.
yeah, yeah. Umbrella. There's any number of different boutique labels that are either in the UK, Australia, Germany, all kinds of places. I'm sure this will turn up somewhere else. It's surprising every now and again the films that kind of fall through the cracks for the longest time. I mean, we've seen a lot of that, films that you wouldn't think, not even necessarily huge films, but movies that you'd think would have a release and they just don't. I mean, one of the ones that I'm totally perplexed by and don't know why it's not available. I'd love to get it. Is This Boy's Life with De Niro and DiCaprio. And I can't, I mean, I've looked around and I guess it had Blu-ray release at one point or another in one country or other, but it's not in print right now as far as I can tell. And that's a strange one. Like that's a movie with a big cast and has some name value to it. So, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows indeed. All right, going to the next one. That's enough about Unlawful Entry. The next title coming from Neon Eagle, who is associated with Cauldron, of course, is Ninja Terminator from 1984. Pre-orders went up for this last Friday, and this is the first ever authorized disc release in North America. It's got a 4K scan of the OCN, and includes the right aspect ratio for the first time, includes the original source film too, which is called The Uninvited Guest of the Star Fairy. And this is going to be in the limited release. It's going to be 2 Blu-rays in their own case, housed in a rigid slipcase with art by Justin Coffey, and a 40-page perfect bound book with new writing on this. And it's going to be one of these. The second disc is going to be in the limited edition only. So there will be a standard for Ninja Terminator, but it will not have The Uninvited Guest of the Star Fairy. So if you want this Godfrey Ho gift to humanity, you might want to jump on this soon. And I mean, this is a fun looking release. Troy, I don't think we ever talked about stuff like this. Are you into any of the martial arts titles that have been coming out recently?
It's not really my thing as such. I've seen this one, in very blurry condition. Of course, it's somewhat infamous, but it's an interesting, it's a fun movie. I mean, what can you say? That's never really been my big thing, though. I've gotten a lot more into kind of South Korean films in recent years. Very interested in a lot of the films that have been coming out, and not just the genre scene, but all kinds of different types of films. It's been quite interesting to explore, but not so much into the kung fu, ninja kind of scene so much.
Yeah, I get that fully. Next up is a Sony Pictures Classics title coming on February 20th, and I don't know how to pronounce this myself. The Lucian Defense, the Luzon Defense. This is from 2000 with John Turturro, and I have never seen this one. Is this one that you're familiar with, Troy? No?
Nope, never heard of it.
But it's Turturro, and I've pretty much always liked him. And Turturro around 2000 was great, so
Yeah.
I'd love to check it out. And it's
Could be interesting.
chess movies. There's some pretty good chess movies out there. Next up from Kino, coming soon as part of their Kino Classics line, is Tin Min from 1918. This is going to be a pretty great looking release. I mean, they, as far as I'm aware, Kino's not done a whole lot with stuff this old in a little bit. So this is pretty dang exciting coming from them, and just another one of the silence they're adding to the Kino Classics line. Troy, any silence that you've loved for a long time?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw the first silent film I ever saw was when I was a child. I think it was Phantom of the Opera, and I'd been warned ahead of time because I wanted to see it so badly, and my mom tried telling me, "Well, it's a silent movie." I said, "No, I don't care. I want to see it." And then, of course, I got it home and I watched it. But why can't I hear anything? What's a silent movie? So it took me a while to kind of get into silent films, but I'm happy to say eventually I did in a big way. I love them. I mean, there are so many wonders. They were some of the most innovative films were being made during that time, and there was a tremendous kind of reset that happened when sound was brought in because of the equipment and everything that sort of changed the playing field. All these incredibly, very visually dynamic movies that were made by directors like Paul Lenny and Fritz Lang and Murnau. A lot of the German films in particular were incredibly adventurous, and we kind of lost that for a while with the early sound techniques and sound technology. So all the big titles, obviously Nosferatu, Caligari, The Golem, Cat and the Canary, which I believe is coming out on Blu-ray sometime pretty soon. I'm excited about that.
Yep.
Faust, The Last Laugh. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. Sunrise. Lots of wonderful, wonderful silent films. So I'm always excited to see films of that vintage being kind of rescued and put out there. It's very important because a lot of these films have never really been available in really decent copies before.
What's funny is we're about to talk about the Cat and Canary in just a couple minutes. And we got a question from Michael for you. Speaking of movies missing from Blu-ray, Troy, have you seen Mute Witness?
Another one that I saw long ago and would love to reacquaint myself with. I don't have a copy of it right now, so yeah, I agree. It's strange. Again, it just seems wholly arbitrary why certain things aren't available. I'm sure there are reasons for it, but I'm not clear on what that is.
I don't think they specified physical release, but I believe Arrow announced that they had acquired it. Uh,
Oh.
I think they alluded to theatrical at the time, but a lot of people are speculating that it's probably coming physical from them.
Well, usually if they're going to go that route, they'll put it out on a disc as
Ex-
well.
Exactly. Next title up is the Triplets of Belleville, and for a lot of people, man, was this a big announcement this week. There was a previous blue release of this, but it was only a BDR, so now it's going to be a proper press disc from Sony Pictures Classics. It's got a lot of the special features from the previous releases. I think it may be missing one. Uh, I believe there's a short documentary from one of the previous releases, but animation is going to get talked about a lot tonight. Troy, are you into animation at all?
I like it. I can't say that it's a specialty of mine though. I kind of lost track of animation when I got into my sort of adult years, but obviously I grew up loving a variety, Tom and Jerry cartoons and Looney Tunes and Disney films that I saw as a child and so forth. So there's a lot of them that I actually thought looked really good, but I was always kind of embarrassed to go see them, so I didn't get
Mm,
around to going.
yeah, thankfully they are people are seemingly coming around to respecting them quite a bit, but it helps with people like Miyazaki putting out films in 2023 that are getting huge theatrical releases and people respecting them beyond a belief because it's Miyazaki. Next up is another film noir box set from Kino. This is number 19. This one is announced with no release date, but it is coming soon. It will have Dark City from 1950, No Man of Her Own from 1950 as well, and then Beware My Lovely from 1952. These are all getting 2020 or 2022 HD masters from Paramount. They are all 4K scans, so they should look pretty dang good. And these are supposed to be three pretty solid films in this one. I don't think I've seen any of these. I may have seen No Man of Her Own. Yeah.
I'm a big noir fan, so this made me very excited for one reason and one reason only, and it's Beware My Lovely, which is another film I've been saying for years. Where is this movie, along with The Desperate Hours with Humphrey Bogart and Frederick March, which finally came out. Beware My Lovely is Ida Lupino being terrorized by Robert Ryan. It doesn't get much better than that. Robert Ryan's one of my all-time favorite actors. He could play heroes. He could play villains. He could play villains that were oddly kind of sympathetic and also just totally vile, like his bigot character in oh god, I can't remember the Edward Dmytryk film off the top of my head that he was in. The title is escaping me, but I mean he could do pretty much anything. I mean, an amazing actor. So I'm so happy to see this film coming out in Blu-ray in the US. I think it got an Australian release in one of those really very steeply priced sets, so I'm glad I held off. Dark City is also, it's not bad, it's decent. Charlton Heston. Actually, it was Heston's first film, if I remember correctly. But No Man of Her Own, I don't know that I've seen that one, but regardless, I'm going to be picking up this set for Beware My Lovely.
Love this. Sibner in the chat says, can only imagine the titles for the Dark Side of Cinema XXX. Maybe it'll be erotic thriller neo-noirs. That'd be nice.
Well,
Next one is The Wolf House from 2018 is getting a Blu-ray on May 21st from Kim Stim themselves. This is also going to include a selection of short films, and a mutual friend of ours, Celeste La Cabra, just recently spoke this out into the ether, using this as a wish list item. Please put this out on Blu-ray, and it took literally less than, I think, 60 days from when Celeste said that to the announcement. So that's pretty dang good odds, and I know a lot of people are very excited about this. I've not had a chance to catch up with this one, but it seems to be pretty experimental and supposed to be pretty good.
yeah, Celeste only has to mention a title. I have to buy it when it comes out in a foreign edition that's overpriced, and then it'll come out over here in a better version that's much cheaper.
Well, keep it up then, Troy.
Oh, I do. I do. I just ordered a 4K of Mario Bava's Black Sunday, so to benefit humanity.
Sweet. I'll be looking forward to that Kino announcement any day now.
It could happen.
Next up, speaking of animation, Kung Fu Panda on 4K is coming on March 12th. The big thing for a lot of people that are into sound is this will have a Dolby Atmos sound set on this instead of the old 5.1 that it had previously. So if you are really into Kung Fu Panda, which to be fair, it's a pretty decent movie. It's not amazing, but it's pretty decent. You might really want that. Next up is the one we just mentioned. So Eureka. Last week we discussed that Eureka was coming to the US under the MVD distribution model, and they announced their first two titles. The big thing is that, as Troy alluded to, they are putting out The Cat and the Canary from 1927, and they are also releasing Black Mask, the Jet Li film from 1996. Both of those films will come out in the US and the UK. It should be right around the same time, probably same day actually, or one day off, but yeah, at the same time. And yeah, I mean, Eureka coming out of the gate with some pretty big things.
Yeah, Cat and the Canary is wonderful. I mean, it's one of the early old dark house thrillers, and of course, it's been remade numerous times. They did a version 1939 with Bob Hope, and then Radley Metzger, of all people, who was famous for his kind of high gloss, high sheen erotica films. He made a version in the late 70s with like Carol Lindley and Daniel Massey and Edward Fox, a lot of good actors. But the 1927 version by Paul Lenny is the best one. It's the gold standard, and was a big influence on one of my great favorite movies, James Whale's The Old Dark House from 1932.
I just watched that one for the first time last October and loved that movie. That movie is remarkable.
You are very lucky that you get to see it now the way it looks. I remember the first version I saw was taken from a bootleg VHS that was it was so dark, it was so muddy, you couldn't see what was going on for chunks of it. So not surprisingly, I didn't much care for it when I first saw it, also because it wasn't quite what I expected. It's not really a straight horror film. It's very much a dark comedy, although it does have some creepy stuff in it. But the way it looks now, oh, it's just amazing. When I saw the Blu-ray release that came out a few years ago, I couldn't believe that they were able to make it look that good.
That movie got me from the opening scene, like the amount of rain pouring and the silliness of driving and what they were driving in right then.
Yeah, Raymond Massey complaining about the weather and the water trickling down his neck, and Melvin Douglas just being incredibly just sort of cynical about everything. It's just a wonderful film. It's so perverse too. I just deeply love that movie.
I'm glad. MVD Rewind. They're putting out Sabotage from 1996 on May 7th. This is the Mark Dacascos film with Carrie-Anne Moss, Graham Greene, and Tony Todd. This will have a new interview with Mark Dacascos that is 32 minutes long. That's a long conversation to have about Sabotage. And they also got a new interview with Tony Todd. Like, to get those two names for this, that's pretty dang cool. As usual, the MVD Rewind, it'll have that classy MVD slipcover for the first print run. But I've never seen this one. Is this the type of movie that you were into in the 90s, Troy?
I like a good action movie, but I don't think I ever saw this one. It doesn't ring any bells, but they're missing an opportunity not to get William Shatner to narrate a trailer for it so he can say sabotage.
There's still time, MVD. Check it out. Next up, March 12th on 4K and Blu-ray, Warner Brothers is releasing the new iteration of The Color Purple from last year. I've heard pretty great things about this one. I've not been able to check this one out yet, but it's got a lot of incredible actors in this one, and yeah, it's a musical.
Yeah, I'm kind of allergic to musicals, I must confess. It's the one genre that kind of eludes me. I don't understand it. I mean, it's no more ridiculous than people turning into werewolves, I understand, but I've never understood, like, The Sound of Music. They're running away from the Nazis. Let's stop and sing a song. Or West Side Story, we're going to have a fight. Let's sing. I don't know. I don't get it. I've, of course, seen Spielberg's version, which I'm not crazy about, honestly. I think it was very well-intentioned, very nobly intentioned film, but it kind of watered down the material too much for my tastes. But why not if you're going to do something different, do a musical version, and maybe it's a wonderful film. I haven't seen it though.
They're going very different.
I think so.
Very different. Next one, we got a bunch of Criterion announcements and big month from them. The first thing really to point out is that almost everything is a 4K release this month from Criterion, which is a far cry from Criterion of just a couple of years ago. So obviously this one is a re-release, but on April 2nd, we are getting La Haine on 4K. This is from 1995, the Vincent Cassel film. No new special features, of course, because it's Criterion and they're just putting it on 4K. I'm sure you've seen this one and have at least something to say about it.
Oh no, it's well worth checking out if you haven't seen this very powerful film. I mean, again, Criterion, it's I don't know, it's a controversial topic because there are people that are just, well, I guess it's true of any label. They're kind of fetishists who just won't hear anything against certain labels, and I don't really understand that. Criterion was indeed the gold standard for many years. I think they've gotten rather lazy more recently. When Night of the Demons 2 is getting a stacked edition on Blu-ray, and some of the things they're putting out are just getting like a little featurette or a trailer. Come on, you can do better than that. So I'm not surprised that they haven't commissioned much in the way of new extras for these re-releases on 4K. But it's nice that the titles are getting re-released in a new format at least.
If I may strengthen your argument ever so slightly, Night of the Demons getting stacked releases for all of the films in the whole franchise in
Mm-hmm.
multiple territories in
Mm-hmm.
Europe and the US. Like that is a huge deal for those films.
Yeah, and then they put out After Hours, which is a great film, and they don't give it much. It's
Yeah.
mostly ported over from the Warner Brothers DVD release. They put a new interview with Scorsese, which is always nice, but come on, you can do better than that. There's some wonderful catalog titles that they went from like DVD to Blu-ray, like Tunes of Glory with Alec Guinness and John Mills, for example. And I was so disappointed to see that the old version was bare bones and the new version is bare bones too. Like, really? Come on, you could do something with that.
Thankfully, the movie looked pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. We shouldn't lose sight of that. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of competition these days with boutique labels, and they really need to they want to reclaim the throne. They need to step it up a little bit.
I would agree there fully. Next one up is a Bellatar film from April 16th. Werkmeister Harmonies. This is one that a lot of people were beyond excited is getting released. This is coming on 4K and Blu-ray on April 16th. New 4K restoration, one 4K disc of the film, and one Blu-ray of the film and special features will be in the 4K release. Tar's first feature film, Family Nest from 1979, is also in this. I think a lot of people glossed over that. There's a new interview with Bellatar by Scott Foundas, and then new subtitles with an essay also by film programmer and critic Dennis Lim. This is a big deal for a lot of Bellatar fans. Are you in that camp, Troy?
I must confess ignorance so far. I've yet to explore that filmography. As passionate as I am about a great many filmmakers and have delved into everything they've ever done, there are some that have just completely escaped me so far. So Bellatar will cross my path one of these days, but not thus far.
Maybe one of these days you can spend Bellatars with Satan Tango for your first outing and spend all day with it.
There you go.
Next title coming on 4K and Blu-ray is I Am Cuba. This is from 1964 and a landmark film that people are very excited about. The response to this was overwhelmingly positive. You got a 4K disc of the movie and then the Blu-ray with the film and special features. There's a 2004 documentary on this film that came out previously. There's an interview from 2003 with Martin Scorsese talking about it. New appreciation of the film by cinematographer Bradford Young, but that's it. The only thing they added is just a small appreciation of the film piece. So yeah, this kind of goes exactly with what you were just saying. There's also an essay by film critic Juan Antonio Garcia Barrero on this, but for such a big deal, I feel like this film probably could have used a little more context.
It blows my mind because they surely are in very good sort of financial position to be able to coordinate with any number of different people who produce extras to get some featurettes, maybe hire somebody to do a commentary or whatever, but they don't seem particularly interested in doing that. And I don't know. Mine's not the reason why. Mine's just to complain that they don't do more.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is there'll still be literally thousands of people lining up to buy these at the next sale. So,
Oh yeah, of course they always will. And you know, hey, what I think of them isn't going to affect anything. I know there are a lot of people who just absolutely swear by them as the absolute gold standard, which, as I say, I think they were, but these days, not so much.
yeah, and obviously they're still mostly choosing pretty great titles. I just wish they put a little more into it. It's a stacked competition market now, and I mean the hard part is they have a fan base that there's places online with people literally saying, "Give me X title that already has a great boutique release from somebody else," and they just want
Yeah,
it from Criterion with a C on the cover.
yeah, that I've never understood. They put out a Blu-ray of David Lynch's the Elephant Man, where Studio Canal put out a 4K, and people were losing their mind. Oh, Criterion's putting out, but the Studio Canal did a better version. It's nicer. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's the label. This is true of so many different things. It's like people get obsessed over labels on shirts or shoes or anything else. That's all that matters. I mean, for years, people were just kept saying, "Oh, I wish they would put this movie out," or Citizen Kane. They finally did. They put out a 4K, and for years, they had a Blu-ray out, which was a perfectly nice special edition Blu-ray. I wanted through Criterion. Well, I mean, eventually they got to it and they did a fine job with it, but I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit mysterious to me.
It surely is, but either way, it'll be a good release, and I'm sure it'll look fantastic. Next title is one, again, like every single title this month, people went crazy for. This one, notwithstanding, April 30th on Blu ray only, Criterion is releasing Dogfight from 1991 with River Phoenix and Lily Taylor. And this is one that people have wanted for quite some time. New 2K digital restoration on this. We got an audio commentary featuring Savoca and the producer Richard Guay. New interview with Savoca and actor Lily Taylor, conducted by Mary Herron. That's pretty dang cool. New interviews with the cinematographer, production designer, script supervisor, music supervisor, supervising sound editor, and the editor. And you got an essay by film critic Christina Newland on this one. And I mean, this is a pretty stacked release. That's a lot of new stuff that I could be excited about.
Yeah, that's more like it. That should be kind of the norm. But it's not. So, good for this particular film that it got that kind of treatment.
This is, somebody just a moment ago in the chat, and I lost it. I would highlight it right now, but it just went by. They basically pointed out that if Criterion can't get the director, they seem to just say, well, never mind. We just not going to put a whole lot on there.
Well, yeah, I think so.
A lot of love for Dogfight in the chat right now. Love that. River Phoenix at his finest. Nice. Yes, this is one of their best months in a long time, Dallas. I would agree. Next up is the last from Criterion, Picnic at Hanging Rock, coming on April 9th on 4K. We all probably could have guessed this was coming after Second Sight put out their 4K. No updates to the Criterion release, no new features or anything like this, but this movie looks pretty great in 4K. I believe it's the exact same scan as Second Sight. They may have done their own in-house restoration work on something. There could be an ever so slight difference. Honestly, probably not, though. It's a killer movie, though. What do you think of Picnic at Hanging Rock?
Well, it's a great film, but they're putting out the shortened version.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I have the same issue whenever they put out, they did the Fellini set, for example, which was a wonderful set in many respects, but they have this kind of snobby attitude towards English dubs. And, I understand the whole sort of purist thing, and people think that, these films should be watched in Italian, but that's not always necessarily true. In some of the cases, some of the films were shot in English and had the actual actors' voices on the soundtracks, and that should have been included. So in a case like this, unless there's something I'm missing, I don't understand why they don't also include the full uncut version. This runs like 10 minutes longer, as opposed to this shortened version, even if that's, a preferred cut. I think if you're going to do it right, you should put both edits on there. I'd say that's true of just about anything. I mean, if there are multiple versions, I'm talking significant differences, not necessarily, uh, one version's missing a couple minutes and due to censorship or something, but like reconstructed versions, really alternate versions, they should be included. So that's kind of the issue I have with this release. It's a great film, but it's inherently flawed.
This is true. That is it for Criterion this month. No matter what we say, I got to be honest, it is a pretty fantastic month compared to what they've been doing. 5 incredible releases. I'm sure they're all going to look great, and 80% of them in 4K. That's a big deal for a company like Criterion that took so long to come to that format. So that could be a sign of things to come. That could be a sign of a tide change. It could just be a really good month, and it could be back to square one tomorrow. So we shall see. Next one is another 4K release that Troy is intimately familiar with. How about we talk about some Burial Ground? So Severin just put up on their website that they are shipping Burial Ground in 4K in early February, and this will be coming out widely shortly after that. This is the 1981 film. That is incredible. On this one, we got an audio commentary with Nathaniel Thompson. The other gentleman is part of the stream tonight, and Eugenio Ercolani. And we are looking at a bunch of archival features on these and a really solid release overall. Troy, why don't you tell us about Burial Ground and the commentary that's on it?
Well, I mean, if you've seen Burial Ground, you know you know what to expect. If you haven't seen it, if you have a taste for the more kind of offbeat and over the top and outlandish and sleazy side of European cult cinema, this is a really fine example of a film that's just utterly bonkers and demented. It has a slight, almost kind of softcore vibe to it in a way, but also gets into real sort of creepy atmospherics. But I mean, the characters are all just sort of unlikable and unpleasant, and everybody's sort of screwing around, and the living dead are marauding, and mayhem is ensuing. And there's a little boy who looks like Dario Argento, who is played by a short person, a little person, who is an adult, and they're trying to make him look like a child. For good reason. There's a scene in the film that there's a reason why this was done. The English dub is loaded with infamous dialogue zingers and terrifically over the top vocal performances from especially Carolyn De Fonseca, who did the voice of Daria Nicolodi in Phenomena and Deep Red. She voices Marie Angela Giordano in this film. She plays the mother of the little boy that I was talking about before, played by Peter Bark, who was interviewed on this disc. So that makes it a must in and of itself. It's deranged fun. I love it. I always have. I would not make great claims for it. I think anybody who tries to take this movie too seriously is really, missing the point. It's just a deliriously sort of feverish, strange, and just entertaining movie. It's one of those movies I saw when I was probably way too young back in the 80s. The VHS, you couldn't escape from it. And it was so muddy. It was so dark, you could hardly see what was going on. So now we're on to, we've had a 4K release from 88 Films in the UK, which is where we recorded our commentary originally for. And now Severin is putting out their version. I would imagine it'll look pretty comparable. And I'm glad to see that they recycled most of the extras and kind of pooled their resources. So that's a nice thing. It took me by surprise. I didn't know that was happening. So, I'm glad to see that those who didn't get a chance to import the 88 release will have this as an option. So good stuff.
Yeah, this is a big one. The entire time you were speaking at the end there, I was trying to think of a way to use Peter's bark is as bad as his bite because of that scene in the movie, but probably shouldn't go there. We have a question. Is this Severin release also $55 since it's a 4K? I answered in the chat, but really wanted to highlight they did pretty well. I mean, this one's $38 on release day coming from them. That's a lot better than what the big sale 4Ks have been recently. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is. And, eventually, I don't know if the plans are to do kind of, slim down sort of general release versions. Maybe, I don't know, that they might be more affordable and, I don't know if all these are available on Amazon or not, but very often, even when something has a stiff price, usually you can get it pretty cheap on there if you just have a little bit of patience. So I understand when people gripe about the prices. I get it, but sometimes if you just have a little bit of patience, you'll get what you want eventually without paying through the nose for it.
All of these ones will be available on Amazon. Same with everything from that Black Friday slate that they had. So all of those will be available. I don't think they've had a true site exclusive or fully limited edition that you can't buy again since the last horror film.
Mm. Well, that's
So
good.
it's been a little bit of time. Next up, as part of this month's announcements from them, is Blood Moon. This is from 1990, and this will have a Blu-ray disc in this, also shipping near the beginning of February as well. This says, though it arrived near the end of the cycle, it remains the most satisfyingly depraved, yet least seen old-school slasher and ozploitation history. And I've never seen this, but from what I've heard, this is one that a lot of people really do not like. So I'd love to hear, Troy, if you've seen this one.
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it. 90s horror is not really my favorite time. There's a lot of stuff that went on in the 90s that I was not a big fan of in terms of film. So I never did get around to this one. Well, I mean, that's pretty late for a slasher film, but it's pre-screen, so I guess it'll at least be irony-free, I would assume.
That is true. And it's pretty late for ozploitation. A lot of the stuff
Hmm.
that they were really diving into was done just a little bit before then.
Yeah.
Next title from them is Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein from 1972. This is the North American disc premiere for this Jess Franco film. I am, I gotta be honest, dying to see this one. And thankfully, the special features on this interview with Stephen Thrower. He had to speak on this. He's the master of Franco. In the Land of Franco, Part 10, and they just continue this long running documentary, basically of everything that's happened for Franco, and Thrower doing whatever he could possibly do to get the world to love Jess Franco. I've missed this one so far. Have you seen this one, Troy?
Well, I mean, I think the release could have used a commentary, but I won't go there. I have, and most people who've seen this film in the U.S. of a certain age saw it under the title "The Screaming Dead," and it's one of the most infamously awful pan and scan VHS releases of all time because this is a widescreen film, 235. And it was just an absolute eyesore. So I'm really curious to see what this looks like. This has had a really checkered past on video. The first version I ever saw was actually taken from a Japanese laser disc. It's virtually a silent film, but if you take my advice, if you watch it, I would recommend watching it in Spanish. Don't watch it in English because the English dub adds a lot of voiceover, which really kind of ruins the mood. In the Spanish version, a lot of it unfolds with just sort of sound effects and weird kind of bird calls and things like that. It's not really a lot of talking going on. You have Dennis Price, who's one of my favorite actors, playing Dr. Frankenstein. He's at death's door by the time he does this film. He's looks much older than he really is. The drinking has taken its toll. Great actor, but in kind of reduced, impoverished circumstances doing this movie. And Howard Vernon, another actor I love, playing Dracula, almost a kind of pantomime version of Dracula with a sort of weirdly colored face and fangs and a top hat. And it's a very strange movie. It's Jess Franco. I mean, if you like Franco, you probably will like it. If you don't like Franco, this is not the movie that's going to win you over. I like it. I prefer the kind of sister production that he did with the same cast called Erotic Rites of Frankenstein. Which I think is a much more compellingly weird movie. But this is a really strange one too, and I'm really excited to see this. I wasted no time putting in an order for this one.
Nice. Yeah, this is a pretty fun month from them, and not only are we getting those 3 titles, they also are doing some of their fun bundles, including this hilarious Burial Ground pillowcase. And gotta ask, are you getting the pillowcase, Troy?
No.
You don't want to sleep with them?
We're just going to let it go at no. I'm not doing the pillowcase. No. I will pass on that, but I'm glad that there are people out there that want to have the toys and the carry-on bags and the plushies and the pillowcases. That's fun for those who want them, but it's not so much my thing.
I got to admit, the shirt for this is pretty nice for Burial Ground.
It
When the
is
moon
nice.
turns red, the dead shall rise, and it says the gates of hell have opened at the bottom. But it's a Paul Bearer press shirt, and they're always super high quality, very comfortable shirts.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the shirt, but man, it's a nice design. They also have the Just the Disc bundle, which actually saves you some decent money if you're getting all three. I gotta laugh a little bit because it is literally $1 below the free shipping threshold. They could have just made it 80 and shipped it to you for free, but no, can't do that.
Gotta draw the
Uh,
line somewhere.
and then finally, you can do a bundle with all of the goodies this month, all three releases, t-shirt and pillowcase, if you really want everything. Yeah, this is a fun month from Severin, and kind of came out of nowhere. We knew we were getting Burial Ground in 4K, but not anytime soon, and not with these three films together. It's a fun package.
Yeah, yeah. Dracula or Prisoner of Frankenstein was the real surprise for me. I had no idea. Very glad that it's happening. So I'm a committed Franco fan. I'm not one of the Franco fans that defends everything he ever made. He made some lousy movies, but I do like this one. I think it's just don't go in expecting a traditional classical kind of horror film. It's not that type of film.
You heard it here first, everybody. Dracula and Frankenstein. It's a classic exploitation-driven grindhouse slasher from whatever other tropes I can throw at it. No, it's going to be off the wall.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up is a little known film with Christopher Lee called The Whip and the Body by Mario Bava, which I have a feeling that Troy has a lot to say about this film.
Well, it's one of Bava's best films. Nathaniel Thompson and I did a commentary for the 88 films release, which also included a second commentary by Kim Newman and Sean Hogan, I believe, as well as interviews with Lamberto Bava, Mario's son, Sergio Martino, who worked on the film in the behind-the-scenes capacity, and Ernesto Gastaldi, who wrote the script as well as a booklet, a nice thick booklet with essays. This version's rather pared down by comparison, but it is using the same scan that 88 was able to put together for their release. And let me tell you, if you want a more stacked version, then that's the one. Obviously, you would want the 88 one because it's got a lot more extra stuff on it. But if you're not region B friendly, or if it's too expensive for you, whatever, this is a good way to see it, because the previous high def versions of this movie looked horrible. They were way too murky. They were way too dark. The colors were all wrong. The characters looked like Oompa Loompas. Colors were just completely wrong. This isn't even a matter of interpretation. I mean, it was just wrong. But now it looks fantastic. I gather there were some people online that were trying to argue that the German DVD looked better. I suggest they go get their eyes checked, because that's simply not true. The new scan that 88 put together looks sensational. Kino's reusing it for this edition. They're reusing their Tim Lucas commentary, and I don't know if there's anything else included on this or not. But if you just want to get a look at the film the way it really should look, this is a good way of finally seeing it the way it should be. It's one of Bava's very best films.
Yeah, and it's coming on March 12th. It'll have the classic thin Kino slipcover and all that fun stuff, but I do wish it had a couple of more of those special features, but it's also Kino, who's going to try to sell this probably on sale a couple months later for like $9. So
Yeah.
they can't put a whole lot on there. It'll be too expensive for them. So
Yeah.
totally get it. Either way, great film. That 88 release looks stupendous. I just answered Brendan in the chat. If you have not seen that 88 films release, this movie has never looked better. And I mean, hands down, most people that know Bava know this is one of the best. I love this movie, and everybody should have it. Next up, another from Kino, Cry the Beloved Country from 1951 is coming soon. We got Sidney Poitier, Canada Lee, Charles Carson, Joyce Carey, Jeffrey Keane. I've never seen this one. It's a 1951 film. Is this one that you're into there, Troy?
Again, years ago, I seem to recall catching on American Movie Classics when they used to run, old movies as opposed to what they run now. And yeah, I recall it being a good film. I couldn't tell you much else beyond that, though.
Exactly. About the same. Next up is a big one after last year, especially. A24 is supposedly going to put up a pre sale for Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads film from 1984. This will be a 4K and Blu ray release. It looks like it will be an A24 site exclusive, one of their fancy releases. Not sure if it'll be the giant one or the smaller release. If it follows the previous patterns, it should be a regular size release from them, not the giant ones. And the date of January 27th is odd, but that's what Variety is reporting. January 27th is a Saturday, and I don't think most films are going to get announced on a Saturday unless you're Kino announcing that they're releasing something someday. That really doesn't happen. That'll probably be the day before, I'm guessing. I'm going to throw out there next Friday the 26th is probably when this goes live. If you've never seen it, highly recommend it. This is one of the best music-based films ever. I mean, Talking Heads are an incredible group, and this movie alone is legendary. And to see this in 4K, I guarantee is going to be stupendous. You're nodding with it. What you got feelings on Stop Making Sense?
Oh no, it's up there with The Last Waltz, in that sort of venue of films, based around that type of music, not a musical as such, but sort of performance and so forth, documentary and so forth. Yeah, it's a fantastic film, and obviously that will be much appreciated after so many years.
Everything I heard about the theatrical run that this played just 2.5, 3 months ago was it looks better than ever and a legendary 4K scan. Dying to see this again. This will be mine soon. I cannot wait for this. Today alone, we got a ton of announcements, and everything else from here on out was just announced today, and there's a lot of them. First up is March 25th in the UK and March 26th in the US for this and the following two announcements. These are all coming from Indicator in March in both territories. This first one is Santo versus the Riders of Terror. They are continuing with a 4K restoration of this Santo film. This is also coupled with Lepers and Sex, the recently rediscovered sexy reworking of Santo versus the Riders of Terror, which is basically a softcore version of it. Don't expect like a full-on adult film or anything with that. You got a commentary with film historian and Mexican cinema specialist David Wilt. Some never-before-seen archival interviews on this. We've got a lucha libre specialist and filmmaker in the killer film El Crítico Enmascarado, the masked critic, assessing the film and its different versions. That's pretty damn cool. We've got alternative French credits. We got some other interviews and just some context giving extras on this film. Indicator going all in on this release, including an 80-page book with a new essay by Colin Gunkel and a bunch of archival essays. This will be limited to 8,000 for the limited edition, and I'm sure this will get a standard eventually. But this sounds like a really fun release. Any Santo for you? Have you ever been into that stuff?
No, not to sound snobby. It's nothing, I mean, everybody likes what they like. That never really pulled me in personally. So I have no experience to speak of with regards to Santo and the masked superhero genre.
Nice. Ian Miller in the chat says, hi, Ryan and Troy. Just bought a used copy of 88's Whip in the Body. Even though I'm not region free yet, I will buy the new Kino and keep the 88 since it's one of my favorite Bava films. Nice.
Got all the bases covered.
Got a copy of it all. Next up is The Batwoman from Indicator. Same thing, releasing in March in the US and UK. I should mention, too, all three of these are Rene Cardona titles. Rene Cardona Sr., and this one will have an audio commentary by David Wilt as well. This one will have a bunch of similar features, image galleries, all kinds of archival information. And again, 80-page book with a new essay by Dolores Tierney with some archival essays. This one just looks fun. Love the art on these two. They really did great. Craig is saying, is it DC licensed? I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting shout.
I have my doubts.
I would have to say probably not. And then finally is the Panther Woman, and man, the art on this one is wild. Love this art. Again, March in both the US and UK. This one is from 1967. 2K restoration from the OCN. We have an audio commentary with the publisher from Parts Unknown and screenwriter of Los Campeones de la Lucha Libre, Keith J. Rainville. We've got Killer Film doing 15 minutes on this. El Critico Mascarado, the master critic, Lucha Libre specialist and filmmaker behind the Monterrey Female Wrestlers documentary. Catfight, 24 minutes, academic and Latin American horror specialist speaking on this. We've got another 80-page booklet with a new essay by Robert Smith. They're just putting a lot of love into all these, which is pretty damn rare for films like this. To get this kind of treatment is really, really great.
No, I think that's wonderful.
Chris Silvestri says this will go great right next to Bat Pussy, and yes, it will. And then for the month of April in the UK and US, Indicator also announced 2 Jean Roland titles. The first, April 22nd in the UK, 23rd in the US, is a 4K release of Demoniacs. This is going to be a great release, and if you've never read the copy that Indicator put out for this morning, tell me that just by hearing this, it doesn't make you want to buy this. A gang of ruthless pirates known as the Wreckers rape 2 survivors of a shipwreck. The women, now mute for some reason, are guided by a mysterious clown to a ruined castle where they receive magical powers with which to exact their revenge on the gang. I mean,
It's accurate, though.
That is a film.
It's accurate.
Indicator is a gift to humanity, says Brendan. Yeah. So this one is a brand new 4K HDR restoration from the original negative by Indicator themselves. We've got 3 presentations of the film: the original theatrical, the longer explicit export version, and Curse of the Living Dead, the alternative English language cut. We got an audio commentary by Tim Lucas that's brand new on this. Selected scenes commentary with Jean Roland from 2005. There is Jean Roland introducing the film from 1998. Then there's a new presentation of an interview with the regular Roland collaborator Jean-Pierre Beaulieu. Newly edited archival interview with actor Willie Brake, and some other appreciation stuff like that. Plus, we have an 80-page book with new essay by Alexandra Heller Nicholas on this. This will be limited to 10,000 individually numbered titles, 6,000 4K, 4,000 Blu-ray for the 4K in US. And I have a feeling, just a heads up, this one is probably going to sell very well. This is one that people have wanted for a bit in a new release. And I would probably pre-order this sooner than later if you really are dying to have this.
It's a good film. It's definitely, I think, one of his most offbeat and interesting films. And yeah, very happy to see it get an upgrade like this. I don't know. Roland is like Franco. He's not for everybody, but if you can get into his sort of mood and approach and so forth. But this is more of a, it's sort of in the style of an old serial. So it's a little bit more action oriented and a little bit, quote unquote, livelier than some of his other movies, which tend to be a little bit more sort of funereal and slow paced. So this one might have a broader appeal in some respects.
Did you check out any of the Roland 4Ks from last year?
I have a bunch of them sitting on the pile to be watched, but I did watch the 4Ks of. I know I watched Shiver of the Vampires, which is my favorite Roland, and I was absolutely thrilled with that because it's such a beautiful looking film. And one of the other vampire films, I can't remember which one I watched, but yeah, I was definitely pleased and long overdue to get nice releases like this for his films. He's one of my favorites.
It's been a blur of a year, so I may be wrong, but if I remember right, last year was the first 4K for Indicator, and they have wowed with every single one that they've put out. I think they've all looked just majestic. For a company like Indicator, I wouldn't expect anything else, but they are genuinely looking like special. They are putting a lot of work into them. And then finally, from Indicator, April 22nd in the UK, April 23rd in the US, again, 4K and Blu-ray, The Nude Vampire from Jean Roland. This one is going to get a lot of similar features. We got a commentary with Kevin Lyons and Jonathan Rigby, who they both do great work. I believe both of them are on the Cushing Curiosity set that we're going to talk about tonight, right?
They are, and I'm very, very happy to see them involved in these, because it's nice to have some different voices represented on occasion, and I'm very curious to hear them tackle Roland, because this is fresh terrain for them as far as commentaries go. So that should be really interesting. And this is a really strange film too. This is a sort of horror sci-fi hybrid with the usual dash of eroticism.
On this, we also have an updated documentary by Daniel Goyette, who was Roland's personal assistant for a long time. We've got extracts from selected interviews with Roland conducted by Goyette between 1998 and 2003. Interview with the archivist Lucas Balbo exploring Roland's connection to the French Anarchist Union. That sounds fascinating. Some other interviews and appreciations, and then another 80-page booklet with a selection of new and archival writings. Again, 10,000 limited title, but this is really cool that they're putting this much into Roland.
Well, there should be more. I'm sure it looks like they're working their way through the catalog, so there should be some great ones to look forward to yet.
I really wanted to highlight before we stepped away from Roland exactly what Craig is saying. In a night, on the show we cover all of the studio titles, and most of the time the art on those, to say they leave a lot to be desired, is very underselling of how poor those studio titles look on the cover. And man, they are really selling those Roland titles with some beautiful commissioned artwork.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, some of them are based also on the original poster art from the French releases. They look great. I mean, really, really fantastic. They look gorgeous. I'm not a packaging fetishist as such, but I do appreciate it whenever they put obviously a lot of love and care into something like that. They look classy. They're also not misrepresenting them in a really tacky way.
Yeah, a lot of them very similar to the original art as well. Seem to be inspired by them.
Mm-hmm.
Mubi is releasing Priscilla on 4K and Blu-ray in the UK and Germany. Those should be coming very, very soon. Right now, it's only placeholder dates all across the internet, but I'm sure we'll hear a final date on those. I don't think Mubi is going to have it in the US, but if you really want the 4K from Mubi, they will probably have this at Orbit eventually. They've been getting a lot of the Mubi titles, so I would keep an eye on those. Then, man, this was a big deal for me. February 27th from Warner Archive, we are getting a box set and also as individual releases, and we'll talk about the individual ones in just a couple minutes. This box set is Hanna Barbera's Superstars 10, and these are from 1987. And that year, the legendary animation team of William Hanna and Joseph Barbera brought forth a series of 10 feature-length animated features to television, all of which would feature their most popular cartoon characters. These films were sold into syndication as the Hanna Barbera Superstars 10, each providing irresistible entertainment. Yogi Bear and Scooby-Doo each star in 3 of the films on this box set, along with a one-time-only meeting of the Flintstones and the Jetsons. Judy Jetson takes the spotlight in her own adventure, while Huckleberry Hound heads up an exciting all-star western, and the lovable Top Cat and his gang star in a story set in Beverly Hills. Also, the Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf is going to have a bonus feature for Scooby Goes to Hollywood, and Yogi and the Invasion of the Space Bears is going to include Yogi's Ark Lark, which is an episode from Yogi's Gang. I love these releases, and I feel like they really, really killed it with this. When we talk about the individuals in just a moment, I would love to see all of these on my shelf. But man, this box set, we'll talk about that in just a second with the single titles. Hold on that thought. Let's go to the next one first. Cohen Media Group, who put out the old Dark House we were just talking about. Driving Madeline from 2023. They are releasing this on Blu-ray on March 19th. No special features, it looks like, but it's got pretty good reviews online, and it's supposed to be pretty good. I had never heard about this one until today, though. Have you heard about this one?
No, I have not.
Okay, so those 10 individual titles from Warner Archive. Here is the cover art for all 10 of these. We got The Good, the Bad, and Huckleberry Hound. The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, Rockin' with Judy Jetson, Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers, Top Cat and the Beverly Hills Cats, Yogi and the Invasion of the Space Bears, Yogi's Great Escape, and Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. So what's crazy is all of these are going to be up on Amazon for probably $21.99, but the box set right now you can pre-order for I think $70. So if you get the box set, you are saving quite a bit of money on all of those. So I would absolutely check this out if you are super into it. Um, Brendan said that I willed this into existence. I've been crying for a lot of these for a long time. Love me some animation. Were you a Hanna Barbera person at all? I know we talked about animation a minute ago.
I'm going to sound very grinchy. No, I'm not a fan of Hanna Barbera, but I did watch a number of the Hanna Barbera. You know, obviously the Flintstones and the Jetsons and Scooby Doo when I was a child. But they have not retained a place in my heart into grinchy adulthood. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I can't wait to have these. I will be the Who to your Grinch.
No, I'm glad they're being. I think everything should be made available for people who like it. So that's good.
I love that we go to from Yogi Bear and the Spruce Goose to Goodbye Uncle Tom in 4K.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, this is wild. Blue Underground on April 23rd is releasing a strictly limited edition of Goodbye Uncle Tom in 4K, or if you don't want the 4K, they are also releasing it on Blu-ray. Both of these will be 4-disc limited editions. The copy I used here is about the same for both of them. Just the 4K disc will have 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays. The Blu-ray set will have 4 Blu-rays. This is a world premiere new 4K 16-bit restoration of both the English and Italian versions from the original negatives. First off, that's insane. That in 2024, we are getting new 4K restorations of Goodbye Uncle Tom, and not just one, both versions of the film. Before we dive into some special features, any thoughts on this one, Troy?
Adio Zio Tom, yes, part of the infamous sort of Mondo cycle, that is sort of infamous and revered in equal measure. This was out of left field. I knew it was coming. I had heard about it. Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to what I said. What a time to be alive. I can certainly say that I would not have imagined that this would be a title that would reach 4K before any number of other titles. But I think it's wonderful that it's getting a release, and it's obviously getting a stacked release. And yeah, I mean, this is cause for celebration if you like this movie. It's certainly one that once you see it, you won't forget it.
Chris Silvestri on Facebook says this release will be $50 to $60, though, most likely. It is if you go to the Blue Underground website, but I will happily shout from the rooftops. Go to Diabolic DVD right now, and you can get this for, I believe, $46 on 4K, which for a strictly limited title from Blue Underground that has never released a bad 4K, to me, that's a pretty easy purchase, especially for a film like this that is really important and one that needs a lot of context. And thankfully, we are getting a lot of context in these special features here. The first 2 discs, if you get the 4K version, those are both 4Ks. We get the English version, which is 123 minutes, the Italian version, which is 136 minutes, and then the Blu-ray discs. We have The Importance of Shocking, a feature-length documentary by the director Andrea Bettinetti, which is 94 minutes long. The Godfathers of Mondo, a documentary by director David Gregory, which is 89 minutes long. Goodbye, Cruel Mondo, interviews with the writers and directors on this, which is 20 minutes long. Behind the Scenes, which is 50 minutes long. Mondo Mercenaries, an interview with the academic Mark Goodall, which is probably going to be incredible. That's 27 minutes. Interview with Professor Matthew J. Smith for 20 minutes. That one is covering abjection under authoritarianism. Incredible. And then after all of that, you're also getting the original motion picture soundtrack CD as a bonus, plus a collectible booklet with the new essay by Dan Madigan. This is a wildly stacked release for this.
I understand that. I understand that people are, on budgets, and it's not always convenient to shell out a certain amount of money. But I mean, this is pretty stacked. I mean, it's. I don't think that they can really be accused of overcharging in this context. And yeah, like you said, there's going to be options to be able to get a little bit cheaper too. So that's also a good thing.
Man, so many comments coming in about this one. Diabolic 4K for $46.99 or $32.99 on Blu-ray. That's not bad. They put a lot into this release. They put a hell of a lot into this release. So
I agree.
very glad this will be out there. It's important. It's also just a heads up. A lot of the phrases being thrown around about this are very accurate. It is shocking if you're not ready or willing to go into it. Just keep in mind that the most shocking thing about it is a lot of stuff that's in this was inspired by actual events and actual treatment of people. And yeah, just a heads up. This is an important one. Next release is The Book of Clarence, starring Lakeith Stanfield, which I love everything he's done. That's coming out soon on Blu-ray from Sony. This was last year's film, and I have a feeling Troy has probably not seen this one either, just like me.
I have not seen it, but I do love Lakeith Stanfield, based on Atlanta, which is a series I greatly enjoy.
I was gonna say, have you seen Atlanta? Because man,
Yeah.
he was a revelation in that movie from episode one, or movie in that series from episode one.
Well, I can't remember the name of the character. I wish you may remember. I don't know, but there was an episode. It's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen on television, and it's a comedy
Teddy
series.
Perkins.
Teddy Perkins, yes. If you haven't seen Teddy Perkins, I always tell people, you don't have to have seen the whole series in order to appreciate this episode. If you don't feel like watching the whole thing, just find a Teddy Perkins episode and watch that and get back to me. That is something.
I felt so bad for him in that episode.
I was just very uncomfortable the whole way through, in the best sense of the term. I loved that episode dearly.
On one of the other podcasts that I host, The Incinerator, we did an episode on Atlanta episodes, and it was one of the most fun things to discuss the different amounts of the way that episodes from Atlanta can affect people based on your own personal experiences or just how you perceive an episode. That show, I think, is going to be something people discover for the next 10 or 15 years and go, holy shit, how did we not appreciate this more in the time that it was coming out? Because that thing is a masterpiece through and through.
Yeah.
Next up is a book, which we don't normally talk about a lot, but this is a pretty important one. Coming this fall, and we don't have a date yet, although Amazon is saying it ships in August. We'll see if that is accurate. From PM Press, Revolution in 35 millimeters, Political Violence and Resistance in Cinema, from the art house to the grindhouse, 1960 to 1990. This is coming out, edited by Andrew Nett and Sam Deegan, a name that you've heard on here many, many times. On this, we got 12 contributors, including Robert Skvarla, Annie Rose, Malamet, Uday Bhatia, Mike White, Christos Tsiolakis, I probably said that wrong, Michael A. Gonzalez, Matthew Kowalski, Emma Westwood, Kimberly Lindbergh, Scott Anberg, Lee Broughton, and Charles Perks. This is a book that's been in the works for a long time, literally a couple of years. I immediately am going to be purchasing this soon. I cannot wait to get this in. I had Sam on to talk about Protest Cinema as she was working on this literally more than a year ago. It's been probably about 18 months at this point, actually. And I can't imagine that this being anything other than a masterpiece. This book is probably going to be incredible.
Looks impressive.
Looks like it took a lot of work, too.
Sure it did.
Next up, February 27th, another animation film that Troy will love on 4K and Blu-ray from Universal is Migration. I actually did see this late last year, and it was surprisingly good. I'll just say that much. It looks like no special features, but a surprisingly funny movie. Next up is one that I've not seen at all, Colt 45. The complete series is coming to Blu-ray from Warner Archive on March 12th. It's going to be a 10-disc, 67-episode set. Were you ever a Colt 45 person, sir?
No, before my time.
I kind of figured. Let's just keep going then. Next up, we got some details on some Kino releases. The first, March 12th, The President's Analyst from 1967. This one's getting a new audio commentary by Julie Kurgo and Peter Henkoff. And there is a archival commentary by Mr. Tim Lucas on this one as well. And we talked about this one the first time it got announced. But since you weren't here, are you familiar with The President's Analyst?
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful film. It's a great satire, well worth seeing. James Coburn's always delightful, and very happy to see Julie Kurgo involved in this and in more releases. She's a very sweet lady. She knows her stuff. Somebody I'm very fond of on a personal level, and I have a great deal of respect for her work as well. So glad that she's in on this release.
Nice. And then the next one, also March 12th, The Lincoln Conspiracy. This one has a new commentary by the director James L. Conway, moderated by a friend of mine, Howard S. Berger. Any thoughts on The Lincoln Conspiracy?
Never seen it.
Never seen it. Same here. Craig from Deaf Crocodile says, we could probably just have a show of just Kino announcements. This is true. They announce a lot of movies. Next one. Speaking of Kino, they are re-releasing, so nothing new on these. Death Rides a Horse, The Lion in Winter, A Fistful of Dynamite, and The Long Riders. These are all coming on March 12th. And a heads up, if you did not hear the news, I think we talked about it about a month ago, but A Fistful of Dynamite had been announced as coming on 4K. That had to be canceled. They also canceled the 4K of Charlie Varick, or Varick, however you say it. There was Varick, that's what I thought. There's some legal problem with that one that they couldn't do it, but Fistful, they've never said the reason for why they had to cancel it. So I'm curious what happened there, but it is coming back out on Blu-ray from Kino. Any of these four that you want to give a special shout out to?
Oh, they're all fine films. I mean, I love I prefer the title Duck You Sucker, even though it's nonsensical. Yeah. But Fistful of Dynamite is what they're calling it. Is a wonderful film. I wish I knew why the 4K was canceled, because we've been getting nice upgrades on Leone's other films, and this one is probably his most underrated film. I don't tend to use that word too much because it's used so much it doesn't mean anything. But that one, I think, tends to really kind of get the short shrift by a lot of people. I like it a lot. Death Rides a Horse is a great Italian Western. I mentioned before, directed by Giulia Petroni, John Philip Law, and Lee Van Cleef. It actually might be my favorite of Van Cleef's movies that he did in Italy, where he was the star, as opposed to being second fiddle. And Lion Winter is fantastic too. I mean, that's that's a great film to watch around Christmas time, but it's also it's a great acting showcase. Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn at their best, and then you have people like Anthony Hopkins in his first film, and Timothy Dalton in either his first or one of his very first films. And yeah, it's just a terrific film. And Long Riders is great too. I mean, there's not a dud in that batch.
Lots of big names starring all four of these too, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention, these are four big ones.
Yeah.
And then finally this week, January 30th, very, very soon, Decal and Neon are working together to put out a BDR, so a burned Blu-ray of Eileen from last year, from 2023. This is the one with Thomasin McKenzie and Anne Hathaway. And I've heard this is a great film. I'm kind of surprised it's only getting a BDR. I guess I could see it probably will not sell super great, but still kind of sucks. It's a good new movie. We should get a decent press release of it.
You would think so.
And yet, here we are. That's it for the week. And after we go over those, we normally talk about what is coming out next week, just in case you forgot. And next week starts some big ones again. Kino with the 4K of Kindergarten Cop, which I watched Kindergarten Cop with my kids last night. And man, was that movie crazier than I remember. Thinner from Scream Factory releasing next week. Jennifer 8 as well. The Chantal Ackerman Masterpieces collection from Criterion. Following that, we've got a standard release of Curse of the Dog God and the Inferno from Mondo Macabro. And triplets of Belleville already. We've got the indicator titles, including Jenna with Christopher Lee, which was one that people were very excited to see announced. And that's the big ones. Any of these first handful of titles that excite you there at all, Troy?
I don't know about excited, but Kindergarten Cop's a lot of fun. Of course, I mean, you'd have to have a very cold heart not to have some enthusiasm for that. And Jenna's not much of a film, but it's got a great performance by Christopher Lee. It was one of the performances he was really particularly proud of. There was a lot of controversy over a Anglo-Saxon actor playing that part for obvious reasons, but it's done with great reverence, and he plays it beautifully. So it's worth seeing for him. I wouldn't go in expecting a great film because I don't think it is. But
Right.
I mean, that was the luck with him. Sometimes, he was a great Rasputin in a not very good movie about Rasputin. He was a great Bond villain in a not very good Bond movie. So didn't always have the best of luck. But it's worth seeing. If you're a fan of his, it's definitely worth seeing.
That is exciting, and one that I believe has been fairly hard to find, right, for a while.
Yeah, it didn't get much of a release altogether, and then there was kind of a crappy overseas DVD, as I recall, and yeah, it's never really had much in the way of exposure. So that's nice. I'm glad that they're putting it out, and more people have an opportunity to see it and appreciate how good he is in it.
Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share it with someone else that may appreciate this.